If you currently suffer from a chronic illness or disease, then I'm here to tell you that in 90% of cases, it is definitely curable. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about my journey and how I cured myself of chronic illness naturally, so without using any form of medication whatsoever, and also how you can too. So, I'm going to take you back to 2014. This is when I first started to develop all of my health issues. So I had gut issues, I had insomnia, pretty bad insomnia. So I was really only sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. I had really bad brain fog, I had poor skin, I had anxiety, I had depression, I was carrying excess weight, and I also had chronic fatigue. Now, the first thing I did, I'm going to skip forward on this timeline to 2016. It's probably what most people do. So you jump on Dr. Google and you try to research your health issues yourself and try to research remedies for those health issues. So I did my own research. I built my own database of hundreds and hundreds of different options that I could potentially try. And I tried absolutely everything that I could. So whenever I'd find something that seemed to even have the smallest chance of working, I would jump on and buy the supplements or buy the medical apparatuses or whatever it may be. And during this period, I spent easily over $5,000, but nothing worked. So now we're going to skip forward to 2018. Now, once I realized that all the stuff that I was doing myself wasn't working, I did what many other people would probably do next, and I started going to the professionals. So I saw 3 doctors, I saw 2 naturopaths, I saw a sleep specialist, and a bunch of other specialists as well. I underwent endless tests, so I did blood tests and saliva tests and hormone tests and thyroid tests and every test you could think of. I was put on different medication to try and see if anything would work. Nothing really worked, and after all of this, I'd spent another $10,000 at least on all this stuff. Now I'm going to skip forward again another 2 years to the year 2020. So at this point, my health was just getting significantly worse. Absolutely nothing was working. I was having side effects from all the medication that I was taking. My symptoms were getting worse, and it was starting to really impact almost every single aspect of my life. So what I mean by that is that it was impacting my relationships because I just never had any energy, and I found it really hard to be positive when I woke up each day. It was also impacting my job because I was rocking up to work in the morning looking and feeling like an absolute zombie, and I was starting to pretty much lose hope at this point. Now, if I had have continued along that path, I would have got to this point here. If I can get my screen straight. Probably I was heading towards a lifetime of poor health. So I would have been spending countless dollars on doctor's appointments and tests and medication. It would have been causing me a huge amount of stress. I would have been on probably all sorts of medication. My quality of life would have been suffering because of those health issues. I probably would have been experiencing premature aging, and even potentially my longevity would have taken a hit. So this may have all been taking years off my life. Now, if you're watching this video, then there's probably a good chance that you are also suffering from chronic health issues. And this is the process or the sequence of events that most people would take when they're in that scenario. This is the traditional approach to curing your chronic illness. But what I want to show you now is a graph to show why this approach and why this method is just completely flawed. And then I'm going to show you what I did, which was different to this, to actually finally cure my chronic illnesses. So I'm going to take you up to this chart here. Now, there's a lot going on in this chart, but I'm really going to break it down for you. So along the horizontal axis here, we have time. So this represents your lifetime. And on the vertical axis here, we have your health. So down the bottom here is good health. And as you get higher up, that represents worse health. So most of us start off our life somewhere down here in optimal health. And this dotted line represents the health trajectory that 75% of people will take during their lifetime. So you start off your life somewhere down here in optimal or good health, and then as you go about your life, most people start to develop poor diet and lifestyle habits, and then they reach a state of poor health. Now, how do you know if you're in a state of poor health? Well, you're going to start developing symptoms. You may have one symptom or you may have a whole bunch of symptoms. And this could be things like excess stress, it could be gut issues or digestive issues, it could be high blood pressure. You might start to carry excess weight. You may always be fatigued and just never have any energy. You may start to develop sleep issues. You may have hormone imbalances. And this is only a very small example of all the different symptoms that you may start to develop once you reach this point of poor health. Now, once you reach this point, most people then go on to see their doctor. They get a diagnosis and they go on medication. Now, the diagnosis may be some sort of chronic health issue, or it may actually be some sort of disease as well. So you may be diagnosed with heart disease or type 2 diabetes or anxiety or depression, or there's a whole list of other ones that could be as well. Now, once you get to that point, what you'll notice in this chart is that your health doesn't actually come back down like this. You don't then return to optimal health once you get a diagnosis and start going on this medication. In fact, generally what happens is your health actually starts to progressively get worse and worse and worse over time until eventually you may require major surgery, or you may even unfortunately succumb to those health issues. Now, this timeline from going from optimal health to poor health through to disease could be as little as 6 months to 1 year, or it could be over decades and decades. Now, this is the traditional path that 9 out of 10 people will take when they start to develop health issues. And the key point here is what I mentioned before, is that once you get to this point here of being diagnosed and going on medication, your health generally does not start to get better. It actually progressively gets worse and worse. So I've also got the little dollar signs up here just to show that from this point here, you're going to be forking out a lot of money on different medications, on doctor's appointments, on testing and things like that. So now what I'm going to show you is how I got myself from this point back down to a state of optimal health, and what you can also do as well. So if I skip down to here where I was before, so this is when I was in 2020, and I showed you if I'd kept going on that path, I would have been on a lifetime of poor health. I actually took a diversion around this point here. Now I'll scroll down. Now the first step I did, I put a question mark there because this is the most important step, and if you don't get this right, then it's going to be very difficult for you to improve your chronic health issues. But I'm going to come back to that at the end of this video and just show you what that is. So what I did is I started to change my diet, my mindset, and my environment. And as part of that, so the first thing I did was I changed my environment. Now, I replaced chemical products. So this is all the products that I was using in and around the house. So things like cleaning products, all the products that I was using on my skin. I replaced all them with natural organic products. I also surrounded myself with loved ones. I put myself into an inspiring environment. So I actually moved out of the room that I was in and moved into a much more inspiring room. And I removed and minimized the sources of stress. Now, I know this is not always easy to do, but a lot of us sometimes get trapped into thinking that we don't have any other options when we actually do. So I would highly encourage you to actually sit down and think about whether you can remove or at least minimize those sources of stress in your life. So that was the environment. Those are things that I did to change my environment. The next thing I did was change my diet with a major focus on gut health. So the first thing I did was remove processed foods from my diet. Now, processed foods are anything that contain artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, and foods are basically processed by manufacturers so that they last longer, or they look better, and they taste better. But you really want to avoid all those processed foods because they cause massive amounts of inflammation in your body. I've got that twice, remove processed foods twice. Oh, no, I've got it 3 times, in fact. Just to show how important it is. So I actually removed plant and seed oils from my diet as well. So those are things like sunflower oils and vegetable oils. Now, those are highly, highly processed, and they require a lot of heat and a lot of chemicals to create them. And sometimes they even include bleaches. So you really want to avoid those things. I also removed it doesn't say this here, but I removed foods that are high in refined sugars, which is another really, really key thing to do, especially for your gut health, because those sugars go into your gut and they feed the non-beneficial bacteria in your gut microbiome. I also started to implement intermittent fasting. So I would go, for example, I'd eat in the morning and then go, say, 12 hours without eating and then eat again at night. Now, when you do intermittent fasting, your whole entire body, every single cell in your body goes into a cellular repair process. So it starts, essentially, your body starts repairing itself. Now, what I often tell people is that just imagine when you're sick, often you actually lose your appetite. That is your body's way of telling you to stop eating so that it can repair itself. So when you do that intermittent fasting, it just basically gives your body the chance to repair itself, and it's really, really powerful. I started to, with my diet, incorporate a whole bunch of variety of nutrient-dense foods. So the best way to create a really healthy gut microbiome is to incorporate a massive variety of different foods. My diet consisted of roughly 80% plant and whole foods, and also 20% organic animal products. Now, I know there's been this whole movement recently towards plant and whole foods, but what we've found is that it's actually more beneficial to have a small amount of animal protein and products in there. You just want to make sure that it's organic grain-fed meat, or the animals are grain-fed. And you also want to make sure that the animals haven't been fed antibiotics or other hormones before you eat them. Now, probably the most important thing that I did for my diet and to improve my gut health was to incorporate modbiotics. Now, you've probably heard of antibiotics and probiotics, but there's also these things called modbiotics. Now, modbiotics are foods that are high in these things called polyphenols. And polyphenols are a naturally occurring poison that when you consume them, they go into your gut, they feed the beneficial microbes in your gut, and they actually kill off the non-beneficial microbes in your gut. Foods that are really high in polyphenols or modbiotic foods are generally things that are really like purpley in color, or that really dark color or dark red. So things like berries, pomegranate, purple cabbage, and things like that. So the third thing that I mentioned I did was I changed my mindset. Now, you may have heard that your gut and your brain are connected via something called the vagus nerve, and they actually communicate to each other. So when you go in and cause inflammation in your gut, that can actually manifest itself in your brain as negative thoughts, and vice versa. When you have negative thoughts in your brain, that can actually manifest itself as inflammation in your gut. So what I did was I attacked it from both ends. Now, what I did to improve my mindset was I started practicing mindfulness daily. So I did things like practicing my awareness, practicing staying present and not worrying about the past or worrying about the future. I did a daily gratitude practice that was super, super important. So first thing I did when I woke up in the morning was think of 3 things that I was thankful for or grateful for. And I did the same thing at night before I went to bed. This is the best time to do it because it's the best time that you can program your subconscious mind. Now, when you start doing this exercise, after about 10 days or so, the key is from the start to think of different things in the morning and different things in the night, and then the next day think of different things again. After about 10 days or so, you'll run out of things that are at the top of your mind that you're grateful for. So, and what this will do is it'll actually start to force your brain to actually think and find things that you're grateful for that you may not have noticed previously. So, you'll get to the point where you're just walking down the street during your normal day, and you'll start to see and notice things that are really positive and that you can be grateful for that you wouldn't have noticed before. I also started to implement daily journaling. I just found it really, really powerful to be able to get your thoughts out with a pen and a paper in front of you. And I also started incorporating me time into every day. So once a day, I would have half an hour to an hour where I would just do something that I enjoy. I would just get away from everything and everyone and do something that I enjoy. So that might be reading a book. It might be going for a walk. It may be whatever it may be for you. Now, once I did those 3 things, so I improved my environment, my diet, and my mindset, this is what I went from. So I went from this, which is the image that I showed you right back at the start, where I'm hooked up to some crazy medical machine that I had to sleep with for 3 days or 3 nights because doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And this is what I look like after I sorted out all of my health issues. So you can see that there's just a massive transformation. If I'd stayed on the traditional path of going down that path of medication, I probably would have still looked like this in years gone by. Now, I want to skip back now to that most important point that I went over before, because this is really the key step in being able to cure your chronic health issues or diseases. And this is identifying the underlying cause of your health issues. That's the key step. So it's that age-old adage that in order to fix a problem, you first need to know what the cause of that problem is. So when I went through this process, I found out that the primary cause of my health issues was my gut microbiome. But for you, it may not be the case. It could be, for example, your hormone imbalance. It could be thyroid issues. It could be one or a combination of 250 or 300 different underlying causes. So the real key is to determine that underlying cause of your health issues. Otherwise, you're just going to be guessing and you're going to be wasting time and money going down different rabbit holes that may not work. Now, to do that, I used a really unique tool called the symptom picture analysis. So the symptom picture analysis, or SPA for short, is a state-of-the-art health diagnostic tool. It assesses 52 different biomarkers of your overall health, everything from your hormone balances to nutritional deficiencies to your thyroid performance, basically every single thing that could be responsible for your health issues. And the really powerful thing about it is it can pinpoint the underlying cause of your health issues or your chronic health issues or chronic disease. And the best part about it is it's now in the form of a questionnaire that you can do from the comfort of your own home, and it only takes about 60 minutes to do. This will save you years of guessing and potentially thousands of dollars on medication and doctors, and like I said, going down all those different rabbit holes and basically trying to guess or research yourself or figure out yourself what the underlying cause of your health issues is. So if you want to know more about this symptom picture analysis tool, if you want to use it to determine the underlying cause of your health issues, I'm going to leave my Instagram details in the description for this video. So simply jump on there and send me a message. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next video.